Hi guys and welcome to Fandom Newbie. My name is Shruti and today's video is all about hyped romance books. Now, basically in this video what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be reading 5 extremely hyped romance books to see what I think about them. Now, these books have been hyped so much on TikTok, on Instagram, on BookTube. So many people love these books and I'm just curious to see what the hype is about and if I will like these books or not. Romance isn't a genre that I generally gravitate towards. It's just like I don't read a lot of romance, so that's why I'm also interested to see if, because these books are so hyped, whether I will actually like them or not, considering it's not one of my favorite genres. So yeah, with that said, let's just jump straight into the video. Hi guys. Okay, so I just finished reading The Hating Game by Sally Thorne, and boy did I have a hating game with this book. Basically, this is a classic enemies to lovers kind of story where our two main characters, Lucy and Josh, work together at a publishing house and they just basically hate each other, except they secretly are attracted to each other and they love each other. Enemies to lovers is one of my least favorite romance tropes because I feel like there are very few books that can actually write an enemies to lovers trope in a good way. The only two I have read so far have been Pride and Prejudice and Six of Crows. But this book was just a mess. And the thing is that it wasn't even like the writing in this book was bad. The writing is actually quite okay, like it's decent writing. But the thing that annoyed me a lot about this book was the main character. Firstly, Lucy is just so dumb. Like honestly, it was so obvious that Josh didn't actually hate her, but he was secretly in love with her, but she was so dense that she never got it, and it was so annoying. The second thing that was really annoying is just how much Lucy objectified Josh. Like, I can understand you thirsting over Josh's body for like a few pages in the book, but I don't need the whole book to be about how rock hard his abs were for 300 whole pages of the book. Like, it got so bad, the objectifying got so bad that Josh actually makes a comment about how he feels that Lucy only loves him for his body. And I just want you guys to think about how it would be if this was reversed. Like, what if it was the guy character objectifying the girl character a lot, so much that the girl says, I think you only love me for my body. Like, everyone would be saying, oh my god, this is such a problematic love story. This is so problematic. This is so toxic. Women are more than just their bodies. And I'm like, this is equally problematic. Even men are more than just their bodies. And the amount that Lucy just focuses on Josh's body was problematic. This was just a really poorly written enemies to lovers kind of story. But if you're into really hot, steamy romances and those are the parts of the book that you really like the really hot, steamy kind of sex scenes, then you actually might like this book because it is super hot and steamy, but it just wasn't for me because I couldn't find any logic in this book. This, my friends, is how to write an enemies to lovers book. So this book follows our main character Olive, and we meet her when she's attending her twin sister Amy's wedding. The buffet that they're serving at the wedding has like some funky type of food, so everyone who eats the buffet falls sick, except for two people who are Olive and Amy's husband's brother, Ethan. Now, Olive and Ethan absolutely hate each other, but what ends up happening is because Amy and her husband can't attend their honeymoon, Olive and Ethan are sent as a honeymoon couple to Hawaii and they have to endure each other for the next 10 days. And basically what happens on that trip is that they fall in love with each other. Now, this story is actually really cute, and the thing that I liked about this story is that it just doesn't have the enemies to lovers trope. It has the fake relationship trope also, which is one of my favorite romance tropes. I always find reading a fake relationship kind of story very entertaining. The place where I feel that this book falters is that it it's based on a lot of romance cliches. So along with enemies to lovers and fake relationship, which are already overused tropes in the romance genre, there's also the single bed trope, there's the giving each other a massage trope. Like, there are so many romance cliches and tropes filled in this book that it just gets a little bit cliche. But the writing is actually quite funny, the characters are super likable, and I also liked that in this book there is actually like genuinely a reason for them to feel that hatred towards each other. Like, it makes sense, unlike the hating game, and just the characters are a lot more believable in this book as compared to the hating game. And so I actually found this a lot more satisfying and more enjoyable to read. So if you're looking for a good enemies to lovers book, then check out The Unhoneymooners. So yesterday night, I just finished reading Normal People by Sally Rooney, and I have very mixed opinions about this book. So there are parts of this book that I really enjoyed, but overall, I have to say that I found this book a little bit boring. Essentially, what this book follows is the relationship between two characters, Connell and Marianne, and how these two characters kind of weave in and out of each other's lives over the course of around 4 or 5 years. And the reason for them to keep weaving in and out of each other's lives is attributed to various things like their own mental health issues as well as the class divide between them. And these are the two things that I think that Sally Rooney actually does really well in this book. The way that Sally Rooney has described both Connell and Marianne's mental health issues, especially when they are going through bouts of anxiety and depression, I felt that was done in such a hauntingly beautiful way. The chapters about Marianne's mental health issues were really difficult to get through. Like, they really made me uncomfortable, but they also made me feel a lot for this character, and I empathized with her so much in those parts. The second thing that the author does really well, as I said, was describing the class divide between the characters. So Connell comes from a slightly lower class as compared to Marianne, and how this class divide affects Connell's mental health, how it affects what he feels about himself and his social standing in the college that he's in. Those conversations were handled really well by the author, I feel. Now, the place where I feel this book falters is in its character development. So like I said, we see the evolution of Marianne and Connell's relationship from when they are 18 years old until they are 22 years old. So a span of about 4 or 5 years. And the problem that happens with the character development is that the relationship dynamic between these two characters doesn't change that much between 18 and 22 years old. And so because there is no change in the dynamic and I'm just like, ye to aise hi rehne wale hai, I never felt super invested in these characters and super invested in their relationship and story. At some points, I just felt myself feeling very bored reading the same thing again and again and again, like the same dynamic again and again and again. Even though in parts this book was actually quite poignant, the themes discussed in this book were really interesting and again very poignantly done. Overall, because the character development was quite poor and because I was not invested in these characters at all, I just found myself feeling very bored while reading this book. So I just finished reading They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera, and given the title of this book, I honestly thought that I was going to be sobbing hysterically after reading this book. I thought that I was going to be heartbroken, but I just didn't feel that way. And I don't know, maybe I'm just extremely heartless or something, but I honestly didn't feel that much after reading this book. The issue that I think that I have with this book is that it's trying to be extremely like profound, and it's trying to be very deep, and it's trying to have all these very thought-provoking deep conversations, but it just ends up being very corny and very cheesy. Like, it almost seems like, you know, like a Hallmark gift card, Archie's gift card kind of book that's selling the message of YOLO. This book is essentially a very simple story. It's about two teenage boys who find out that they're going to die, and they spend their last day doing things that make them feel alive. So the message of YOLO is very strong in this book. It's all about living life to the fullest, but that's about it. That's where the profoundness ends. And so when you have really cheesy dialogues coming from these teenage boys, when you keep getting that same message of live life to the fullest, live life to the fullest, be alive, like almost every other page in the book, it just, I don't know, it doesn't add to the emotional value. At least it didn't add it for me. Maybe I'm just like a cynical old hag and I'm heartless. I don't know. Honestly, that's what this like entire video is making me feel, because no book so far has made me feel like something very, very emotionally, and maybe I'm just very heartless. The other thing about this book is that there are chapters in between which are from the point of view of certain really random side characters, and they don't add anything to the story. So I really wondered why those chapters even exist, because they don't add to the story of the two main characters, Mateo and Rufus, and they don't add a lot to the world building either. So I'm just like, why do they exist? They honestly just felt like filler chapters, and the editors could have taken those out and it wouldn't have hampered the story in any way. So yeah, I don't know. This book was like, it's a simple, sweet story. I gave it 3 stars, but I wanted it to make me feel something, and it didn't. Finally, a book that made me feel something. Oh my god. This challenge really made me feel like I'm some kind of heartless monster, but no, I am not. A book finally made me feel something. So last night I finished reading It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, and I finished it around 12 o'clock, like at midnight, and then I couldn't sleep until like 2 a.m. because I couldn't stop thinking about that book. Like I just could not get myself out of that book, and I just kept thinking of everything that Colleen Hoover has discussed in this book, the story that she's written. It was just absolutely, absolutely powerful. And out of all the books that I've read for this little challenge video thing, if there's one book that deserves to be hyped, it is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. Like, this book was really, really good. So this book isn't your typical love story. Yes, there are like certain love story cliches and elements in this book, but essentially what the story is about is not about love, and the themes that Colleen Hoover has discussed in this book are a lot more serious and they're a lot deeper. So what Colleen Hoover has discussed in this book is basically the theme of domestic abuse and abuse in relationships. And what I loved about this book is just how Colleen Hoover discusses this extremely serious theme with so much empathy and so much nuance and so much complexity, because like we'd like to believe that domestic abuse is a very black and white matter, but there are elements of gray involved in this horribly tragic situation. And just the way that Colleen Hoover has explored those shades of gray and those themes of gray is just, it's just very, very beautifully done. So yeah, like I said, if there's one book from this challenge that needs to be hyped, that you guys should definitely read, it is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. This was my first Colleen Hoover book, by the way, and I'm definitely going to be checking out more from this author. So in conclusion, I think the thing that I've really learned about myself in doing this little experiment is just how my taste in romance books has evolved over the years. Now, Teenage Shruti would definitely have loved, I think, The Hating Game and The Unhoneymooners the most out of all of these books, because Teenage Shruti loved the angst and the heat and the passion. But Adult Shruti, I think I need a lot more emotional nuance in the story. So like, firstly, the love cannot just be based on passion and heat and looks. There has to be some kind of emotional depth, and there has to be some kind of emotional connection between the characters for me to be invested in the story. And the second thing that I think that I like in love stories now is that when the love story, like when the romance is not the only thing which is explored in the book. So some romance books that I've really enjoyed are Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe, because along with the romance between the two main characters and the friendship between them, there are themes of sexuality and like sexual awakening, and also like family dynamics. These themes are discussed in the book, which make it such an emotional story. Also, another book that I really liked recently is Just Haven't Met You Yet by Sophie Cousins, because there are themes of grief and how to deal with grief that are discussed in that book. And so, like It Ends With Us also, which discusses themes of domestic abuse, I feel that I need some kind of emotional depth. I need some like important themes to be discussed in the book along with the romance for me to really be invested in the story and enjoy the book. So yeah, that was my video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give this video a big fat thumbs up. Leave a comment down below letting me know if you guys have any romance recommendations for me or what you think about all of these hyped books. Let me know what you guys think about them, because I would love to know your thoughts. And of course, do subscribe to my channel for more book related videos. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.